China's ambassador to Australia has held a lengthy and highly unusual media conference in Canberra to defend his country against allegations of foreign interference and human rights abuses, while calling on the rest of the world to respect China's style of economic development and its social model. The ambassador struck out at international criticism of the treatment of Uyghur people in Xinjiang province, calling it fake news and saying Beijing has responded firmly in the face of terrorism. The ABC's political editor Andrew Probyn was one of the journalists who attended that event, and he joins us now. Andrew, it was quite a media conference, wasn't it? The likes of which we haven't seen before from a Chinese ambassador. So why did he call it?
Well, that's right. It was quite an unusual, extraordinary event today. My 20 years in Canberra, I've never seen anything like it. An ambassador inviting us not just into the embassy, but into his own residence. It has to be said that China's been the subject of considerable criticism, not just from Australia, but also the West, whether it's the treatment of Uyghurs, allegations of IP theft. It's incitement of those who are protesting against those Hong Kong supporters or supporters of Hong Kong independence. But a particular niggle for the Australian government is the treatment of an Australian writer, Yang Hengjun. Now, Mr. Yang, he was detained in China in January 18. He's been arrested ever since, and the government really doesn't know, the Australian government doesn't know what he's been charged with or what he's accused of. In fact, he hasn't been charged with anything, it turns out today. The ambassador confirmed that he had been formally arrested, but he seemed to equivocate as to whether he would actually be formally charged. But this has been going on for some time. There's been a lot of diplomatic pressure on the Chinese government to both explain his treatment, because there are claims that he's been shackled and interviewed at odd times of the night. So this one of the first questions that was posed to him today in an hour-long press conference, a press conference longer than any of Scott Morrison's this year, it must be said. He was asked about the treatment of Yang Hengjun.
Mr. Yang Jun was formally arrested last August, I think, with the approval, from the Chinese relevant prosecution authority for being suspect of engaging espionage activities. And the case, I understand, is now still under investigation, further investigations. In due course, he will be formally charged.
So, Andrew, the ambassador took on a question about Xinjiang province with particular vigour, didn't he?
He did. The ABC asked that question. There was a lengthy talk on that particular issue. Now, this is a province in the northwest of China, and satellite imagery, Four Corners did a big story on this, in fact, earlier in the year, showing that enormous, what looks like detention centres have been built in this province. This is a province that has had some problems in social unrest and the like, with concerns from the community that they're not being treated with due respect and the rights of Chinese citizens. He was particularly intent on tackling this question, and showed to the media. In fact, I think that the ABC cut away from this video because it was very, very graphic. It was a video that showed all sorts of activity, awful terrorist activity, showing cars and vans mowing people down, explosions, many killed, and it was in that context that the ambassador then tackled this question as to whether this was a detention that breached human rights. He says that what's being done in Xinjiang province, and he won't actually say, or wouldn't say, how many people it does affect. He said that the prospect of it affecting 1 million people people. He said that was fake news, but wouldn't clarify as to what the real numbers were. He was saying that this is a de-radicalisation program, one that seeks to re-educate people who are terrorists. Well, let's hear from the ambassador on this particular issue.
It's nothing to do with human rights, nothing to do with religion. It's about fighting terrorism and take preventive actions. I mean, to ensure the safety and security of the ordinary people and to ensure the smooth development and prosperity of the region.
Well, the US ambassador, Arthur Culverhouse, has expressed, perhaps on behalf of the rest of the Western world, the great alarm that it has and the West about the treatment of Uyghurs in the Xinjiang province. He has also used an interview last week to say that Uyghurs in Australia are being harassed and intimidated. But this is going to be, you would think, judging from the ambassador's comments, an issue that rolls on into the new year and perhaps beyond, because he was talking with great intent and reflecting Xi Jinping's intent, it seems, to ensure that there is no more terrorism in this area. He said that there had been no violence and no terrorism for 3 years because of the tactics involved, Ros. So absolutely fascinating day, and I did encourage him at the end to hold another press conference soon.
How did that go down?
Well, he was saying, well, let's see, but it would be good if this happened on a regular basis, because getting answers out of China, both in China and here, is often not the easiest of tasks.
Andrew, thanks.